from Financial Wellness Academy here. I'm so excited to talk to her and just put her business under the spotlight. So welcome. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting to me today.
Thank you, Elaine. Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, we've done the hellos. Let's get into it.
Let's dive straight in.
Let's put your business under the spotlight. I don't know, where am I getting this energy from today? Like, it's an easygoing chat, and I love hearing about how people started their business or why. So tell me, like, why? What's the crack? Two Irish women talking here this morning. What's the crack? Why did you start your business?
Well, I think energy-wise, what you said, I think there's a bit of devilment from St. Bridget creeping in there because of the timing, maybe the time of the year. But my business, how did it come by? In one word, by accident. It wasn't something that I sat and planned for or, spent ages thinking about it. It was something I kept getting nudged to do by friends. Oh, you're really good at this. Why don't you help women with this? And I thought, no, there's lots of other people doing it. Why would I just reinvent the wheel? And I kept, because I wasn't taking action on that, I kept being nudged and nudged. And eventually I thought, okay, fine, fine, I hear it, I'll do it. But it took me ages to find a way to do it that I felt comfortable with, that I felt that I wasn't stepping on somebody else's toes, because I've mentored with somebody for a long time in this space. And then I realized, well, actually, you know what? Without being disingenuous to what they were doing, I wanted to do it in a way that was slightly different in the same space, but slightly different to meet a need that I thought wasn't being met. So it really came by accident and then with quite a bit of resistance. And eventually I, pulled my finger out and said, okay, right, I'll just give it a go. And then it just took off. So yeah, and that was my humble beginnings.
Oh my goodness. And okay, so what, like, the clients that you work with in the Financial Wellness Academy, um, what do they say happens to them when they start working with you?
I think the piece that really surprised me most was that they didn't think anybody else or people like me struggled with what they were struggling with. They thought they were alone. They thought it was only them who were feeling that way and who were having really stressing out about money and who couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And again, with me, I decided to dive straight in and did a financial wellness week at the beginning of when I was launching my thing a few years ago, and it took off. And I had a very rough sketch as to what I was going to do. And what became apparent very quickly was it was by sharing my story that people resonated with very quickly. I thought what I was there to do was give value. What I didn't realize was that there was actually value, huge value in the story, because the story provided to the women listening the inspiration, the motivation, hope that, oh, golly gosh, she's really been struggling with a lot of big things too. She got out of it. Maybe I can too. So that was the first thing that really struck me about what they were hearing. It wasn't what I intended. I thought, I need to be jam packed with value and all these things that they could do. And actually, what they most needed was somebody to say, wherever you are right now, it's okay. It will be okay. And you can do some simple things to get yourself out of that and to where you want to be. And I was like, wow, that's what they need. Yeah. So I continued to do that and stack on that with other things that they asked for. But that was really where it started for. It was like they needed somebody just to hold a candle and to reach out and go, it's okay. It's all okay, and it will be okay. I'm okay. I've transitioned from desperation to wellness, and you can absolutely do this too. So
Oh my goodness, that's so inspiring. Okay, so they get that real sense of almost like community, like that they're not the only one struggling with their finances, that someone who for them they look to you and go, wow, she's got it all together, and you're, but then they go, okay, okay, but this is possible for me. This is possible for me to have it all together too. That is honestly, it's such a gift for people, isn't it? That leads me to my next question then, which is does someone do people have a common issue? Well, obviously finance. But outside the obvious, is there a common issue that crops up when you're working with your clients?
I'd say one of the big things for the women I work with is they're all, most of them, mothers. So they're probably spinning wheels right now, and they're just about getting through. They're treading water, but what they're really fearful of is the future. So if their kids are going to want to go to college or university or do an apprenticeship or whatever they're going to need to do or want to do, can they have the means to support them? Can they give the kids the future that they desire? And then, of course, second in the list is always themselves. When can I afford to retire? I don't have a pension, or maybe I have some pension, but maybe it's not enough. I don't know how much I need. So it seems to be most of them are just about treading water, and it's what's ahead that they worry about, a lot of them. Some of them do struggle with the debt piece, but I'd say the majority, it's the future piece, which was why I dived into the property side from my own perspective, was exactly that I struggled with that. And I think one of the things that really helps with the women I work with is I tend to be no holds barred. So you will never hear me say I've got it all sorted, because I don't. Because if I ever was that full of it to say something, I think I would jinx myself and it would blow up in my face. So I tend to share warts and all the really gooey warts. And I've had some real crackers of pretty significant health scare with breast and lymphatic cancer. I have had divorce in the last few years. I have had significant financial loss, 70, 80,000 very recently. And I don't pretend to say, no, it's all fine. Oh, yes, all my buckets are brimming and life is jolly and, unicorns are all around me, farting rainbows. No. Um, Shit gets real, and shit happens to me on a regular basis. But the distinguishing factor with having done my work in this space is that when that stuff hits the fan, I've got my oxygen mask on, and I have an emergency fund in place. I've got protection in place, and I can be as still as I possibly can and go, okay, right, money is not the worry. So when I had that health scare, I was taken out of work for quite a while, and I really was doing very little, but I didn't have to worry about having the funds to pay for all the therapies that I wanted to pursue to make sure that never got any further. Or I didn't have to worry about not having income in, because I had several different funnels set up. So I think that really is another piece that helps with really connect with women. And we talked about connection before the call. It's just vital, and to be your authentic self with all your warts is key to connecting to my audience. I found, again by accident, just being honest and being myself, and not pretending, yeah, it's all fine. No, it's not. I don't have it all sorted, but to help me deal with the challenges, here's what I do. And this really does work because I've tested it many, many times. So
Brilliant. God, that is fantastic. And it's so interesting, that it is like that future looking, that's what they are looking to. It is like, oh, what is going to happen down the line? Oh my goodness, that is so interesting. And you've already hinted a little bit at this, but I mean, your passion for this really comes across. So, what part of your business do you think you enjoy the most?
um speaking with women about this. So, whether it's like an interview like this, or whether it's on a stage, or whether it's in a group program or one to one, just having these conversations, because I know for real myself that this is life changing. If I didn't learn what I learned, I would have stayed in a relationship for over 24 years that wasn't serving me. I would have continued to model to my kids an unhealthy relationship. I would have potentially not been able to get on top of my health diagnosis. I would have allowed myself to sink. I might not be here, being real, if I had let those some of those challenges really get on top of me. And that's real. And I actually shared that recently. It was very vulnerable to share. In terms of money in particular, it's one of those subjects that can really get on top of you. And I had a recent experience with a very large loss that really did nearly take me under. And I knew it was so heavy, but I had good enough self awareness to have a friend keep an eye on me as I went for a swim, because I knew if one of those big clouds came over while I was having a swim, washing it all off, I just might not pop my head back up. And I knew I needed somebody to keep an eye on me. And it was that knowing that just kept pulling me through. So knowing that if I didn't have my stuff in order, I could have allowed that to take me under properly. And that's the severity of some of the situations I see, that women are staying in relationships that they're killing them. They're slowly, it's like carbon monoxide. As somebody described it to me recently, I thought that's exactly what it feels like. When I started to come out of the divorce, and it was about me, not the my ex-husband. He's a great person. I just had lost myself in motherhood, and I was slowly like gassing myself with, because I'd taken away my oxygen. My children are the joy of my life. I have three kids, but I had lost my own sense of purpose. And it was by putting my own oxygen mask back on that I realized this is really important. And if I didn't do that for myself, then nobody else is going to save me. I need to do it for myself. And then now all the time I see women, they're either stuck in jobs that are killing them slowly, they're stuck in relationships, they're stuck in situations of various guises that really is just destroying their soul. And as mothers, that's really dangerous to do because I've seen the impact on my own kids. And difficult enough as it was to make a decision on the divorce, it was continue to give a really unhealthy relationship as model that as that's normal to my kids, or make a break. So either way, I was going to do damage, and I chose to take the route of divorce because I thought this was the one that I was being true to. But I see those situations regularly, and it really makes me sad to see women having similar experiences to me and feel they have no choice. So I'm the really annoying person, probably from lots of males' point of view, who pop up and go, no, you don't have to accept that. Get out, leave that job, leave that person, get your stuff in order, do what you need to do. But yeah, I feel like being the voice for those women to share the courage that I had to do what I did, which took a huge amount of courage. I think it was the scariest thing I've ever done, but I feel better than I ever have. And that's, yeah. So I think it's that. It's just finding that light in somebody, thinking, I see, I get where you are, and it doesn't need to be like that, and throwing somebody a lifeline. So whether that's from stage, or it's an interview, somebody listening to this, or whether it's in a group one-to-one call, that just lights me up. And I could do that all day, every day, for free. And just, I would be happy for the rest of my life, because it feels like that's legacy work, that this is really important. And as mums as well, I underestimated when I was doing this the impact it would have on my kids. I was busy in my own lane, doing my own thing, putting my own oxygen mask on. And then I turn around and I see three little people discussing needs and wants, and discussing investment property with other people. And I'm thinking, okay, I didn't see that coming. Of course, it makes total sense, but it wasn't paying attention to that at all. And then I realized, wow, okay, these are little sponges, and they're absorbing the bad stuff too, unfortunately. And we'll have to save for a therapist for later to deal with. But they're also absorbing lots of good stuff. So yay, for that. So we become, as mothers, such important role models in our kids' lives. And I just did a vlog yesterday on that relationship with our kids, on whether we should gift kids money, whether we should give them all the things that they want. And I have pretty strict views on that, in terms of my kids this week were one particular was looking for something, and I said, well, is it a need or a want? It's a want. Okay, right, fair enough, that's fine. And if it's a need, her dad and I will take care of it. But if it's a want, right, that's your space. So what are you going to do? Do you have a birthday coming up? No. Christmas? No. Okay, so do you have stuff that you can sell to generate the cash for what you need? Yeah, maybe. Well, is there another way that you can generate the cash for what you want? Hmm. And then I realized myself, the cleaner has disappeared. The toilets are driving me nuts. Would you be interested in doing this? So let's do a value exchange. And she's considering my offer at the moment. So it's got so many facets to it. We think we're doing it for ourselves, and we often don't do it as women because we think, oh, it's I need to take care of the kids first. Well, actually, when it comes to this is one of the best gifts that you can give your kids, because we cannot go through life without money. And if you can model financial wellness in a really healthy way, then that is the best gift you can give your children. So two of mine have their own current accounts, they have their own debit cards, they get any money paid in straight into their account, they manage it all themselves. They have a credit rating already. It's magic, and it starts, but you have to be the model. It's not something you can do demonstrate really badly and then expect they're going to just pick it up out of magic. You have to be the model for that. So yeah, that's my little, that very long-winded way of answering that question.
No, there's so much gold in there. I can tell you there's so much gold. Yeah, gosh, I mean, we had Henry Hippo here, so like it's just all about inspiring kids to, they see what we do. My own daughter has Down syndrome, and people with Down syndrome tend to be visual learners, so we really notice how much she observes by watching her behavior, because her behavior is our behavior. So I completely understand what you mean. And I think, having grown up in a world where we had, part-time jobs when we were, younger, it's interesting, so well, let's come out a bit and away from your business, although it still might be related. And what I'd love to know is, like, who in business actually inspires you?
Who inspires me? I think the person who I would think of straight away is a wonderful woman called Joanna Martin, Dr. Joanna Martin. She is an Australian woman, previously qualified as a GP, and is now in the personal development space. So she is somebody I have been working with for the last year in her group program, and they've just come back from a retreat with 3 days around vitality with that group. And she really inspires me as to what she's creating in terms of empowering women in whatever part of the world and in whatever speciality they're working in, to be themselves and to clean up that part of the world that they're in. So I was at a conference last year in May in London, and it was a room filled with about 400 women. The energy in that room was staggering. And one of the pieces right now that worries me most is in healthcare. Like, our healthcare systems, no matter what country, pretty much they're in chaos, utter chaos. And because of her medical background, she attracts a huge amount of healthcare workers, as very senior specialists, nurses, all sorts. And each of those individuals is doing their own thing across the healthcare space. And I think, wow, there is hope. When I went to that room and I saw the level of professionals in there, particularly in the medical, I thought, okay, this woman is leading the light on this, and she's inspired so many people in the medical and lots of other spaces too. But that one needs the most care, in my opinion. And just the feminine force behind that was outstanding. So she in particular inspires me right now.
Yeah, gosh. Oh, I'll Google her later, I tell you. Sounds fascinating. Oh, gosh. And I love hearing about That's why I love talking to people. I love hearing about other people in this space doing something different, to inspire others. Um, okay, so what advice would you give a new business owner who was trying to find clients? Like, so now that you have grown your business for the last number of years, if you could look back and go, okay, that worked, what would you say to somebody, even just a couple of rungs down the ladder from where you are at the moment?
I think probably would be twofold. One would be the Martin Luther King quote would be, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the next step. So I think when you're starting out in business, often you think you need it all, singing, all dancing, everything in place, and it can be very overwhelming. That's definitely what my experience was of it in the beginning. And I think really when you pay attention to what that quote says is you just don't need it all sorted. Just take, what do you think as a woman intuitively? I think our intuition is our superpower for the women listening in. I think men have that in a slightly different guise, which I can't talk to because I don't know. But women definitely, our intuition is so on the mark when we pay attention. When we ignore it, it's at our peril, always in my experience. So pay attention to what that next step is. And it might be something really simple. It might be talk to Sally about her experience, or maybe she's in your demographic of potential clients, and have a chat with her as to what are the things that are coming up for her? What's the issues that she's facing? It might be that simple. And that would be the first thing. The other thing, I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle, having been a few years in. But if I was to have my time over again, what I would do would not be focused on the clients in terms of making sales. So I've backed things right up starting this year, and I've started consistently creating value in the form of a blog. So to me, it's about creating that visibility to the value that you're creating, and working with you, Elaine, and Let's Get Visible, using the platforms that make sense to match to your demographic. So mine is a really simple model. I love video, I love talking, it's really easy for me. So I record like a 7-10 minute vlog every week, and that then goes up to YouTube. It then goes onto LinkedIn, Facebook group, Facebook page, goes onto my blog on my website, and goes out to my newsletter thing. One piece content,
Yeah.
systemized out. And that was like, ooh, and that's very slowly starting to create results. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. But if I had my time over again, that is something I would have started from the beginning, because what I did was like an octopus on roller skates, was chaotic, was all over the shop, and it worked and it was fine, but it was chaos, and I'm just getting too old for chaos. I want some kind of systems. I want some kind of consistency, and consistency is something I have difficulty with when it comes to this. I'm really good in other things, but when it comes to business, it's been a bit chaotic. So now it's like 2024 is about very consistent. So I would say keep it simple and get your value consistent from the very beginning. And the clients and the programs and whatever you're going to offer, it will come in time, just because you might end up designing what your service, your product looks like based on what comes out of the value you create and the interactions that you have. So don't worry about having it all singing, all dancing from the get go. Just start with the first step, and whatever that step is, just create the consistency with the value, and then go from there. So that would be my hindsight advice.
Brilliant, brilliant advice. And I just add on to that, very sensible to have an evergreen aspect of your marketing, because like YouTube is searchable, and absolutely repurpose that as you are. But it's the thing that we don't think about is like, okay, is there an algorithm aspect to this, which you have in LinkedIn? But do I have an evergreen aspect to my marketing? And you have in YouTube. And sometimes people don't think about that, And I also have to say, fair play to you. Again, something I always say to my clients is that there is enough audience on every single platform now, so choose what's right for you, because maybe you don't actually want to be on video. Obviously, we love jibber jabbering. But other people hate it. They love to write, and there is space for that too, So just do what you love, because then you will be consistent, like if you're doing what you love, So, oh, that is awesome advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, okay. Well, then the other thing that I always love to hear from people at different stages of business is, like, did you notice getting to the next step, or did you look back and go, oh my God, I've achieved that? And in that step up, step forward, when you looked back, was there anything that you went, ah, that little piece of the puzzle? That piece of the puzzle was so helpful to my step to this level.
Yeah, I think it was at the very beginning when I started. I did kind of a freebie event called Financial Wellness Week, and I did that a number of times until I got a health scare and I couldn't sustain it. And I'm in the process of restarting that back up. But when I was doing that, the reaction was phenomenal, and I loved doing it because it was video and it was chatting and whatever. But the thing that and I mentioned it earlier that I just didn't get was how much my story impacted women. And it was like, oh, I didn't even think there was anything in that. I don't even know what I thought originally the purpose of sharing that was. There was obviously a purpose, but I underestimated that. And that happened by accident. But I paid attention to the feedback. So when I kept getting comments on this, I was like, really? Is this genuinely making a difference? Not quite getting that, but okay, right, I'm going to take a word for it, because I just kept hearing the same thing over and over again. So it was okay, pay attention. What are they saying to you? What are they giving you back in the feedback, or what are their questions, or what are their observations, comments, etc.? So it was pay attention, because I think sometimes in business it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy, shiny object to go down this rabbit hole or that rabbit hole. But it's like, if you are paying attention to what's going on around you and watching the signs. Like, I was being nudged to do this for ages, but I just resisted it. But when I did go with it, it was like, oh, listen to what they're saying to you, and reflecting back. And that was gold for me, because that's how I then thought, oh, right, well, maybe I should share more of this. And the more I shared the warts as well, in particular, that really resonated with them. And I thought, okay, right, well, just watch what's, because sometimes I think in business I see people a lot of kind of with blinkers on, and this is my plan, and no, no, I'm not paying any attention to what you're saying. This is the way it needs to be, and X, Y, and Z has told me this, so I need to do it this way. But all the inputs are saying, you need to pay attention to this and this. And we're so fixed on, oh, I've paid this person for a plan, I need to do it like this. And you're like, well, yeah, but that's not resonating. That's not what your audience are telling you. Don't be so rigidly stuck in it. Just pay attention. So that was I saw it and thought, don't really get it, but there's obviously something going on. Pay attention to it. So that was the thing that I think that was a surprise for me.
That is such great advice. Honestly, the pay attention piece, it really is, such great advice, because, listening to people and what they're saying to you, like even just using their words in your content, like to take a small example of that, or paying attention, because we evolve, like, in how we do business. Here we all are on Zoom, like 4 or 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been, there's so much that people then before couldn't see, for example, getting anything out of following a course. But now that you're able to show up with someone from your front room or your home office, and like we're in different countries and we're chatting, like we're part of a network that I never would have joined. So that paying attention piece can deliver you insight. Oh, that is so good. I see a post coming from you on paying attention. I see one coming from me. That's great. Like such great advice. And actually then this will lead me to the next one, which was, and I suppose in a way you've already answered it in some way, because you were saying like that blinkered aspect can just be like just not the thing to do. Although sometimes, depending on your personality type, you need a plan, you need a framework to follow. Sometimes we don't, as you say, trust our own intuition. Was there a strategy that like you were advised of, or maybe not advised of, but discovered that you tried and you were just like, no, I don't like it. It's not working.
Um, there was probably I followed a launch plan, which did work to a degree, but on hindsight, I'm redoing it now, and it's doing it my way, with a launch. So it did work partly, but what I'm trying to think of something that really didn't work for me. Uh, Oh, there was something, but I can't think. It's gone out of my head. There were elements. There was definitely elements of the launch piece that, but I think the thing about the blinker was that I had paid for this program, and I thought I have to do it, and so and so says I have to do it this way, so I have to do it that way, and I'm overriding my instinct that is, this is too complicated. I need to simplify this. Oh, well, the results show XYZ, so you have to do it this way. Now, with a little bit more experience under my belt, I'm going, right, I'm going to do it this time because it does work. It's a very effective strategy, but I'm doing it in the way that I think as a user, and the feedback I got from it, there were too many pages. It needs to be simple and more comprehensive. So I think that was probably the thing that comes to mind, that it worked to a degree, but it would have worked better if I had have simplified it the way the feedback told me and the way I felt myself, that it was too clunky. But I can't think of anything that expressly, like, I love networking. I know networking for a lot of people is just like, but for me, networking, to those who don't like it, I will say, well, you know what? Sometimes it doesn't necessarily need to be in a group of strangers. It could actually be just a conversation with your sister or somebody at the school gate or whatever. That is a form of networking. It's having conversations in whatever kind of guise, and that's one that a lot of people just kind of are, because they've had bad experiences, of, and I've had really terrible networking experiences where people just talk at you and it's just horrible. But you start to fine tune that and find ways that actually you can work it, because I'm not sure there's any business that you can work in and not have interact with people, to some degree. I mean, you can decide the degree and the types of people that you interact with, which is a massive benefit to self-employment, but you're going to need some level of interaction. So you choose your ideal team, you choose the customers that light you up, and definitely, I think one thing is not really a strategy, but never, ever, ever, for any amount of money, work with somebody that you just don't gel with, ever. Company person, ever. That never works for me. I have done it several times, and I would say it's never worth whatever you've been paid. It is never worth it. So maybe that's a strategy that does not work, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's the nutshell version for me.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's good advice, because sometimes, especially when you're starting out, you can just say yes to clients that it's not going to work out. So save yourself the time, pain, and money. And yeah, I think trust your instincts. And I agree with you again on the launching. I myself tried challenges before. I tried a challenge, and what I realized about challenges, in my opinion, is when you're at a certain stage of a business where you don't have external help, or you don't have enough revenue to invest. So if you don't have external help, I always feel you need ads. And if you don't have enough revenue for ads, I just feel avoid challenges. Keep it simple, because we all have a finite amount of energy. So Yeah, good for you. You've got to do it your own way. Like, what works for somebody else works for them, and then you've got to, trust your instinct and make it work for your own life. So, and you touched on networking and indeed building connection. Like, maybe because I'm a connector, I love to put people in touch, even if it's not to work for me, if it's not for my own interest, I love to kind of go, oh, I know somebody who could help you to grow your business. I love connecting people. I get a buzz out of it. And I think it has grown my business, the more I lean into it. What about you? So it sounds like it does affect your business. And then how does it affect your business?
Well, I love it. I absolutely love networking, but I totally understand why some people are allergic to it. And those who feel like that towards it, I would definitely encourage you to see, well, how can you do it in a way that works for you? Because I don't see how I quite happy to be proven wrong, but I don't see how you can have a business where there's no level of connection involved in it. And I was challenged last year at some stage by a client I was having a conversation with. And I am very much used to be in my go, go, go energy, and sometimes still am. But she challenged me on a call, and I was a little bit taken aback, but she was 100% right. I'm very good to chat and connect, but I had gone straight in with the business at hand and not taking the couple of minutes up front to actually, how are you? How are things going for you? Because it was somebody I previously knew. I was watching the time. I knew what we had to get covered, and I was just straight in. And actually, twice last year, two different people reflected back to me. And if I wasn't paying attention to what they said, or swatted it away as, yeah, just whatever she was on one, that's her problem. No, it wasn't actually. That was for me to learn. So even if whether you're in a room full of people or you're just on a one-to-one, that genuine connection, you genuinely want to be there, you genuinely want to help the person, and hopefully that's reflected back by the person you're having the conversation with, and that's the level of connection that I think is really important. So it doesn't matter the space, whether it's just, both of us having a conversation here or it being in a wider group. That's the piece. And even, through writing a comment on a post, replying to somebody who's maybe put on your post, genuinely feel it's not just, yeah, okay, right, this is keywords, I'm just going to bang this in and post and off you go. It's like, okay, what do they say? Interesting, okay. And genuinely replying with some thought as to what's the most appropriate response to that. That's connecting. So I think to do well in business, it needs to come from a genuine connection place. And that's something I've learned. I could do connection in my sleep, but it's the genuine bit, I think, that just to touch base in the beginning before you kind of dive into the work stuff sometimes is I trip myself up. I'm so very superficial at times. It's like, okay, hang on a second. Can we just draw a breath here first? I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, forgot about that. And my intention was good in trying to get there, but it was like just miss that little soft piece. So yeah, but I think we all have capacity to do that. Some of us probably have had negative experiences. But I think if you just boil it back to that simple thing, like how do you connect, even with, for those of your mothers or parents, how do you connect with your children? You just take time to really make that eye contact, genuinely be interested in what it is they're sharing, and have a desire to help them, however that is, connect them with another person or share a resource with them or whatever it is, but that genuine connection. And I think, we in our pre-interview chat, we mentioned on this that there seems to be a massive kind of worldwide shift happening on this at the moment, away from that very male oriented, task driven, get shit done, whatever, and let's get moving, to actually hold on a second now. Let's just take a breath. Let's connect genuinely, have a chat with each other, and then we'll get stuff done. Because when two people are connected or in a larger group and you're on the same page, there's better flow. and there's less friction. So it's super important whether you're having a conversation with a client or working with a potential contractor or staff member. It's really important because we all have those human needs at our core, and we want to be heard and we want to be appreciated. So it starts with a genuine connection.
I love that. And I think it's going to differentiate us. You'll
Mm.
see the businesses that lean into their humanity. Oh, you've led me so nicely to my next one. Because my mantra is like, so obviously, I work in the communication space. And my mantra is, act like a human being, a nice human being, just to differentiate there. A nice, kind, human being when you're on social. And I just think it's so important, especially as we see the growth of AI, which I fully support. But I think it is going to be the difference. And actually, to build on what you just said, sometimes I feel, oh, I have to get back to somebody. And I might comment, and I'm a direct person. And then in their response to my comments, I might be like, oh goodness, they have taken me up the wrong way. Right, let's throw some heart emojis in here because that didn't come across right, and sometimes that pause that you speak of and going, okay, look, yeah, they've commented, but just take a breath, maybe have a cup of tea. You don't have to get back to somebody straight away. It would be better to be actually just to reflect, think, and act in that order. Um, so yeah, that's my mantra. It's just act like it's a human being. So do you have a mantra for your business? Do you kind of share something with your clients that you go like, this is going to be okay, or
I
what
think
is it?
up to last year it probably would be just you do you, be authentically you. But coming towards the back end of last year and early this year, it has been trust. And interestingly enough, as I lean more into that, whatever you decide, you believe in terms of is source, trust, God, whatever. It always seems to happen to me as soon as I decide something. All these bombs start going off. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Really, really? So a massive trust issue blew up for me in business, and I'm still working through the debris on that. But I'm absolutely still rock solid in, yeah, it has to be trust. I trust that showing up every week and taking the time out to create something that's of really good value, to the people who watch it will be the right thing in the long term. It's not going to be overnight, and I'm okay with that. In the meantime, because I've got my house in order with my finances, I can afford to do that. So I'm coming from, when I'm creating that value, it's always coming from a place of love, but just trusting. So for me, my mantra, I think at the moment for me and the women I work with is trust. We've got this. You are where you are, and I firmly believe everything that happens to us for a reason. There's a lesson there. Whether we pay attention or not, we get the lesson, we'll move on. Hopefully we won't get it again. But if we don't get the lesson, you're going to keep getting it put back and put back, and that thing will keep happening in various guises until you pick it up. So just take it and pay attention. So for me, the lesson currently is trust, and that's what
Trust.
I'm sharing. And it is a challenge, because as a recovering control freak, trust is kind of hard to. You have to let go, and letting go is very hard at times when I'm micromanaging everything. But I'm getting better at going. Okay, chaos is reigning. I'm trusting it'll all work out, and generally it does.
Oh,
Not
brilliant.
immediately, but.
And tell me what's coming up for you then. What's the dream, or it doesn't have to be a dream. What's the plan for the business in the next year? We're early enough in the year for me to ask that question.
Yeah, no, and it's I spent the back end of the year putting putting together what should have been in place at the very beginning. However, I was so busy barreling through that I didn't really pay attention, but I'm paying a lot more attention now. So I've just put in place the architecture for Financial Wellness Academy. So the website and all the assets and all the programs, they're all systemized and ready to go. So it takes me out of it. So that's all there. And now it's about adding on top of that architecture, the value in the vlog going via the various platforms. And as that grows consistently every week, I'm batching that. And that's one thing I think if you're in that space, batching content is so brilliant because you're in the zone. Because if you're trying to do it every week, you have to be in a particular zone. So I sat down yesterday and did a month, and that's so much easier. So I can see the year unfurling that is very consistently produced. It's going across the platforms I mentioned, and then I'm adding in the architecture of that kind of coming to life so that the programs are all set up in a way that I've pre-recorded a lot of the content, and then it's just me dropping in with the live pieces, so that just takes care of itself. I've got some paid speaking stuff starting to ramp up, which I love, both virtual and in person. And down the line, my exit plan with this, and this is actually something I came across last year. Somebody brought it to my attention and said, look, it's all well and good kind of doing what you're doing, but what's your exit plan? And I was like, what do you mean? What's your exit plan? So they talked me through that. So when I designed my exit plan, my business looked different. So now it looks like bringing other people to deliver that. So it doesn't always involve me, that I'm going to the next level to make sure that, for me, the mission is to make sure to educate and empower women to master their money stuff so they can live the life they desire. So whatever platform I need to be on to get that message far and wide, money is never an issue. So I want things to be affordable. I want to do my stuff for free as well, so that there's always value there. But I want to put this information in as many women's hands as I can worldwide, because we change the tide, because then it starts coming down to the next generations, and that's legacy stuff, and that's how I want to leave the world in a much better place. So that's my plan for financial wellness for women worldwide.
Oh, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. And I just know more people are going to want to work with you. So tell me, as we end our time together, tell me, like, how can people work with you?
So you
How
can
can
check
they
out the
find
different
you,
options
Caitriona? How can they find you?
really simply on my website, financialwellnessacademy.co.uk, and that outlines the different ways you can work with me one-to-one, or there's a little DIY course, or there's a group program. So there's lots of different options that you can check out there. And there's a little app that you can rate your own financial wellness level and do a little checklist if you want to play with that. So lots of information there for you to check out. And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Financial Wellness Academy, also for a weekly vlog, if that floats your boat.
Brilliant. Well, the links will be depending on where you're watching us. Yeah, like, these are the exits. They will be in the description, so I will include them. And it's just been so great to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me today in the Business Spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.